You never know who's going to stop by the Notsam studio. Ladies and gentlemen, for the very first time, you know her as part of the esteemed WWE broadcast team, as a backstage correspondent for SmackDown Premium Live events. You see her on Raw Talk. You see her on SmackDown Lowdown. You see her on The Bump every single Wednesday afternoon on Peacock. Megan Morant, you have arrived. Welcome.
Thank you, Sam. I love the place. This is awesome. I'm so glad to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for being here. And you know, we were talking about this a little bit before. But I think about an interaction that we had early on in getting to know each other. It might have been the first time we spoke in person, or one of the early times we spoke in person. But it was in Hershey, Pennsylvania, when I was brought in to do SmackDown at the very last minute. Like, I've told this story before, but I got the phone call, 4:30 in the afternoon. Can you get to Hershey? I literally got there at 8:30 to do something that was going live at 8:40. And it was one of these moments where, and I've talked about it with people before. We were just having, when Robert Stone was on, he was saying how, like, people don't realize how difficult commentary is, how many little things there are to do in commentary. But I don't think people realize how many little things there are to every role in WWE, and certainly every broadcast role included. Even me, like, and I've been watching this stuff for decades now. So you would think, but I'll never forget, I had that moment where instantly you go, oh, there's a lot more to this that you could never know until you actually do it. We're going live in like 15 seconds or whatever. And I was like, okay. And I looked at you and I went, Megan, should I say my name? Should I introduce myself before I introduce the Usos? And you were like, I don't know. I mean, I know what I would do, but would you? 5, 4. And I was like, I got to figure this out. And it was one of those where it's like every single thing counts when that red light's on.
Oh, of course. I mean, and WWE is its whole different entity in general, right? Like you said, you've been watching this for decades. It's, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome my guest at this time, the Usos. But, you know, in where my background, that's not the introduction that you would give. And especially if it was your first time on whatever programming it is, you would want the audience to know, hey, I'm Sam Roberts backstage.
Right.
Please welcome the Usos. But in that moment, I was like, I'm not sure. And, you know, we've been so taught, like, you know, it's about the superstars. It's about the Usos, which absolutely it is. But in that moment, we were both really at a loss.
Right, because it's weird that I'm here.
Yeah,
like, I'm usually not here.
I was so stressed that day because, first of all, Kayla had something come up, wasn't feeling well, had to go. Cole calls me in the morning, Michael Cole, and says, hey, you're running backstage today. And I was still like maybe 5 months in. Like, I was pretty new.
Wow.
So I was kind of just getting the hang of everything. And I was like, wow, I'm handling backstage all by myself. This is a lot. And then they called and said Sam Roberts is on his way in. And I was like, Sam's not gonna make it. There's no way. Yeah. So I was standing by in case you didn't make it, in case I had to fill in for that interview as well. But I'm so glad you made it. I mean, we were all like tracking your location. When's he gonna arrive? I remember Tommy Cullen walking around on the phone. Security was waiting for your arrival. I mean, they should have caught your arrival with the cameras. Like, and here comes Sam Roberts.
Yeah, Tommy Cullen, one of the amazing backstage producers, just an incredible talent. But also, yeah, I remember he was there waiting. And then right before I went on, as I was talking to you, I got a text from Bruce Pritchard, who was, I'm sure, in gorilla position or whatever, going, did you make it? Are you here? And I responded, yes. And then he texted back, damn, I was hoping you wouldn't make it.
Well, and the thing about Tommy is, like, a fire could be going on. Oh. And he's so calm.
Yes.
You would never know it. People could be screaming in his ears. And he's like, all right, Sam, we're going to do this live shot. No big deal. Coming to you. 5. And you're like, what do I say? What do I do?
Because he's been there. And that's part of, like, I think I'm sure that you must have figured out very quickly, like, okay, like, when it's on. Here we go. How did you, what was your journey like getting to WWE?
Oh, I had never envisioned myself working at WWE. Not like I was against it. I just never thought
Didn't occur to you.
that I would ever end up here. I honestly didn't really know much about wrestling at all. Had watched maybe a tiny little bit. Obviously, growing up, you see all the kids with Austin 316 shirts.
Hell
I
yeah.
knew about The Rock, but I never really sat down and watched. I was working in football for the Patriots. I was their in-house team reporter, and I hosted a radio show, and I was there for 4 years, and I just really reached my ceiling there. They loved me. I loved them. Great experience. But there was really no more room for me to grow within that role. So I was looking to kind of see what was out there. I knew somebody over in the talent office at Fox that I developed a really good relationship with. And I was scrolling on LinkedIn one day and I saw like WWE is looking for a digital talent. So I called up my pal Jacob and I was like, hey, saw this WWE. I know they're on Fox. Like, what do you think about me and WWE? He's like, well, I think you'd be really good at it. Are you interested? And I was like, I think I'm interested. And so a couple emails were exchanged. I had a phone call with Tom Phillips. We chatted for a bit. And then a couple months later, I got an email saying, hey, Michael Cole would like to schedule a call with you. And I, at the time, I really didn't even know who Michael Cole was. So this was during the pandemic.
Months had gone by, so it's not
Since
like you're
I heard, I wasn't really anticipating. It was like, oh, this maybe my name got floated around. And it was sort of like my call with Tom Phillips was like just checking in, catching up. Where are you at in life? This is what we do. This is what you do, etc. Keep in touch. So it was during the pandemic and the world was like pretty locked down. We were living in Boston. And I remember that day, like the exciting things you looked forward to, like, oh, we're going to go for a drive today. So it was like a Friday and my husband's like, hey, you want to go for a ride? I was like, oh, I can't at this time because I have a call with WWE. And he looks at me in a way he's like never looked at me before. And I'm like,
That's
what?
you want to hear from your
and he's
husband.
like, did you say WWE? I was like, yeah. He's like, who's your call with? And I'm like, Michael Cole. And he's like, Megan, he's the Joe Buck of wrestling.
You mean the voice of the WWE?
And I was like, are you into wrestling? He's like, I love wrestling. I'm like, how did I not know this about you?
How
like,
long had you been with him?
Oh, I mean, at least 3 years at the point. I'm like, you're my emergency contact. And I had no idea. So he's like, this is a really big deal. I'm like, it is? I'm like, because the call's in 20 minutes. And he's like, no, this is huge. So now I'm nervous. I'm like, oh my God, am I not prepared? What am I going to do? So I get on the phone with Cole and I tell him about myself. He tells me about WWE. He tells me, he says, how much do you know about wrestling? And I'm ready to lie. Oh, yeah. I watch it every week. And so I was like, well, he's like, please don't lie. I prefer to hire people who are not fans. And so I said, okay, I've never really watched. He said, that's okay. That's okay. We can teach you about the product. How about I give you a month? You watch the product and then I'll fly you down and you can audition. Like, all right, great. So I get off the phone and I look at Andrew and I say, we're watching wrestling. And he's like, yes.
All I'm thinking about is his perspective. If my wife came to me and was like, Sam, I have a month to learn about WWE, I'd go, strap in. This is going to be the greatest month of all time.
So then I tell Andrew's mom, and she has books for me. She takes me into their basement. It's filled with all these action figures. And then come to find out, I remember there was Raw at the TD Garden, and Andrew was going with his friends, and I didn't even know like where he was going. He was very coy about the whole thing. He said,
so was he keeping this from you because he was like he didn't want you to know he was a wrestling fan?
I think so.
That's
so he was going to Raw at the Garden, but never told me like, oh, it's Raw, oh, it's wrestling. Just, oh, I'm going to this thing at the Garden with my friends. And I was like, well, is it sports? I love sports. Can I come? He's like, no, it's not really sports. It's just this thing. I was like, well, is it like a fight? Like what is it? No, it's just not for you. Like you wouldn't want to go. So now I'm interviewing for this position with this company that he's like totally kept a secret from me.
Wow.
So it was very funny. I remember we called his brother and he's like, Meg's got to learn about wrestling. Do you want to come over and watch the Royal Rumble with us?
Oh,
So his
what a
brother-
great period of time.
Oh,
You had to
yeah.
learn during Royal Rumble time?
Yes.
And that's the funnest time ever. Realizing you get to like indoctrinate a new fan
Oh, yeah.
with the Rumble?
Yes, we picked. I was in a pool. I was
Yes.
picking numbers out of the pool. I mean, Bianca Belair won the Rumble. I was obsessed. I mean, as soon as she came out with the braid, I was like, this is for me.
Yes.
This is for me. I love this. Actually, the first episode I ever watched was that scene with Alexa Bliss and Randy Orton and the fire. And I was hooked.
You were.
I said to Andrew, why have I not watched this my whole life? But
Yeah.
I grew up with a sister. My mother was like, isn't that violent? You know, like one of those. So I think wrestling for me was something that I would have always loved. It's just we didn't find each other until later in life.
Yeah, yeah. And sometimes it takes seeing the Fiend get lit on fire to realize this is something that's been missing from my life. That's amazing. So you go from this life where this man of yours is hiding the fact that he's a wrestling fan to now your entire lives revolve around sports entertainment.
Yes.
That is wild. So you got it kind of right away as you started watching?
Oh, yeah. Right away, I understood what was going on. What I didn't understand, because at the time I was watching, it was during the Thunderdome era.
Right.
So what I didn't understand is how integral of a part the WWE universe is.
Yes.
And I didn't understand the crowds. I didn't understand the pops. And I honestly didn't really understand it until I had been with WWE and we went on the road and it was Money in the Bank and we were in Texas.
Yes.
And Cena comes back.
Oh, of course.
And I was like, this is what everybody has been telling me about. This is the moment. And it's exhilarating.
Yeah.
You want to watch more. I'm really glad I got to start during the Thunderdome era because it allowed me to kind of get to know the talent, kind of get to figure out what I was doing before the fans were present. And then jumping into the road is a whole different world.
Wow,
So,
what a wild thing. Yeah, not only like the travel aspect of it, but just the sort of the movement of it. I have to imagine
yeah.
that the kind of physical, the way you feel, the movement, the way the show moves when there's 8, 10, 20,000 people in the building versus when it's in the Thunderdome, it's got to be night and day.
Oh, yeah. It was totally a different experience. I think I got lucky because I was jumping into this world that I didn't completely understand. I knew I was interested in it and I knew that I liked it from what I had experienced. But I think had I started right away, traveling 52 weeks a year, all of these fans, that would have been a huge change and would have kind of rocked my world. I
Yeah.
got to ease my way in, which was really nice.
And not a lot of people do.
yes.
So when you went down after a month of falling in love with the product,
hmm
and then you go, was it like when you got there, were you completely sort of familiarized? Like how different of a situation for you was it than where you were at a month before when you got that phone call?
Well, I remember like flying down and staying in the hotel and then waiting in the lobby because I was going to be taken around by everybody and seeing some of the talent out of character in makeup versus I had only seen them in character on my TV screen. So it's like Charlotte Flair walks by and I'm like,
The Queen.
oh my gosh, she's there. Because I felt like
Michael Cole goes from being like, it's okay. Like, I'm okay hiring people that aren't fans. Bad news, buddy. I became a fan.
I became a fan. You gave me 1 month and I'm a whole different person. But I felt like, and it was fun for my husband, it was fun for me because when you watch someone experience wrestling for the first time, I'm sure you see it with your
It's the
6-year-old
greatest.
son.
It's the greatest.
And you watch it click in their brain. And one of the things I love about wrestling, of the many things, is especially when you go to a live show, it's
Mhm.
like everybody turns into a 12-year-old again, and it is
100%.
so awesome. My cousin got to go to the show in Denver when The Rock came back, and
Ah.
he was one of the cutaways that the camera went to. And here's my mid 30-year-old cousin losing his mind. And I love that we all get to do that.
Yes, and it's especially true in this era right now, which hasn't always been the case, and it maybe hasn't been the case for like 20 years or something like that, where you go to shows and the adults and the kids are all cheering for the same people and
Hmm.
all booing the same people. I go with my little kid and we're booing the Judgment Day and we're cheering Cody Rhodes and everybody's on the same page. And you really do just get lost in this like pure fantasy world that turns everybody into a kid.
It's amazing.
It's amazing.
Yeah, and just I think when I would look at my husband and be like, "Oh my God, can you believe that?" It was like, this happens all the time. I was like, "What?"
Kicked out.
I can't. I'm like, he was fined. It's like, all right, relax over there.
Yeah, did coming from the world of sports, did the storytelling aspect appeal to you right away, or was that something you had to learn?
Right away.
Yeah.
I mean, I always tell people who are not fans of sports entertainment or have never been to a show, I'm like, it's theater meets sports,
Mhm.
right? It's so much fun. And I'll have friends all the time, especially when I was traveling, and be like, hey, you should come to the show tonight. Oh, I don't know. I don't follow. Will I get it? You'll get it.
Yeah.
You will get it. And I mean, nobody does live events better than WWE, and going to a show is so much fun.
Yeah.
The energy is so great. I love the storylines. I think I kind of wish sports had more of that,
Yep.
right? I mean, they have to come more organically, and when I was with the Patriots, there were plenty of storylines, obviously surrounding Tom Brady and surrounding Bill Belichick. So, but there are sometimes in sports when, I'm a big college football fan. Last weekend's slate of college football, I was like, ugh,
Mm-hmm.
this was gross.
Mhm.
What a bummer of a weekend, And you don't get that much in sports entertainment.
No, and yeah, I mean, like I think as I told you the other day, I think like one of the reasons why I just started watching the NFL this season and got so locked in is because that first Sunday I was like, oh, I'm enjoying myself. This is fun. And then literally Monday, you've got the greatest storyline ever with Aaron Rodgers going down, and it's like I'm locked in. But you do realize like there are games that it's like on paper this is great, and it was awful. Like not even the wrong team won. It's just this is so incredibly boring.
Yes.
Both teams are playing bad. There's like I'm not entertained by this. I mean, UFC has those moments, right? Where it's like you're expecting this big knockdown, drag out, somebody is going to get clobbered, and it ends up going the distance. And
Mhm.
and while it's still a great spectacle, that emphasis on story and story being the primary thing is something that like for me has just always been the appeal.
Yeah, and that's why with sports, I now am getting very into gambling, because when it is a dud of the
Yes.
game, I can make it a story for myself.
Right.
Are they going to cover the spread? Is the under going to hit? Is the over going to hit? And then, when you're like, oh, this one had no chance, and all of a sudden it hits.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like ding, ding, ding. I just won
Right.
the World Heavyweight Championship, right?
Yes, it's stakes. It's
Yes.
all stakes. Like when you're watching WWE, it's like, wow, the fact that Dominic Mysterio is calling his dad a deadbeat, and his dad is finally driven to compete with his son on the grandest stage of them all, and there's a cinnamon toast crunch dancing, and the family's in the front row. It's like there's stakes here. There's all this going on, and yeah, I would say that gambling on sports instantly adds stakes because now it's like no. This is crucially important.
Yes. Now
what
I
happens
am
here.
locked in
Yeah.
to this meaningless game where nobody can convert a first down. I'm locked in.
Yeah, and it is all you could always tell who's got money on the game. Where you're just like watching, like, oh yeah, and you just come on. Okay, he's
Or
got
when
stakes.
people are like, it's over. And I'm like, what? It's not over? Like, no, it's not over. I don't care who wins. I care if I win.
Yeah. So is it still? So it's always interesting to me for people who start familiarizing themselves with WWE, because not only do you first go, okay, I have to understand the product from an audience perspective, but then you have to go a step further and understand the product from the perspective of the people creating the product, because now you're one of those people, right? You're
Correct.
contributing to the creation of the product, which means, like we said in the beginning, not only do you have to know what to do, you have to develop a sense of why you're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something that has taken time?
Yeah, I think like anything, it does take a little bit of time and understanding where this is going, right? I have
Yeah.
a backstage interview, and one of the big differences with broadcast sports and broadcast sports entertainment, the sideline interview, it's like, how do you feel going into the half? And it's generic answer. But everything that we do in sports entertainment has a reason.
Yes.
We're doing an interview. This is setting up whatever may come. We're doing an interview. It's to get a reaction about what just happened because it's going to lead to something else. So everything is very much forward thinking, and we're not doing things just to check the boxes versus a sporting event. Let's send it down to the sideline. An injury, that's example, right? An injury update, that's a purpose. We want to know which player got injured and why they got injured, but and that can enhance and move the story of the game. But sometimes they're not, right? It's just we got to play better coming into the half. All right, back to you guys, right? We don't have that in sports entertainment. It's no back to you guys. Everything we do is very purposeful.
Right, because in sports, there isn't necessarily that responsibility on, okay, camera's on and we got a mic, like we have to move the story further or give people a reason to buy a ticket or give people a reason to tune into Peacock, or sometimes it's just like, yeah, here's the answer to your question, I'm leaving now.
Exactly.
And that's it. Although, and I love finding those parallels, and I'm sure you do too, as such a big sports fan, sports entertainment, professional wrestling, facial expressions, so important. You tell the whole story with your face. And based on facial expressions alone, I feel like there might be nobody more built for professional wrestling than Bill Belichick. I mean, the facials that guy can deliver on just the reactions, the body language, the whole story is right there.
He's like, we're on to Cincinnati.
Yeah.
We're gonna really focus on Miami. We're gonna do what's best for the team.
Right, but then you watch him throw flags at officials and
the best.
Slam iPads and stuff, and you're like, this guy just delivers.
Yeah, he would be an incredible manager, right?
Yes.
Man, we should make that happen.
Absolutely.
We really should make that happen.
And then have him cut promos like his promos would stink. Like he does those low energy, not really saying anything. But then once he's at ringside, I mean, he's giving Heyman a run for his money with the facials and the body language and everything.
Well, I would love to see it because he's got to be a great promo guy, right? I mean, he is the greatest coach to ever do it. So he's got to motivate these guys. We just don't see it.
Right. Yes, there's got to be. We got to unearth some of those locker room Belichick promos.
Yes, I want to see it. I definitely want to see it. You know what I was thinking about the other day? This is totally off topic, but like, 60 Minutes, right?
Yeah.
Andy Rooney was on 60 Minutes for the longest time. And it just occurred to me last week that Andy Rooney's job at the end of 60 Minutes was to cut a 3 to 4 minute promo complaining about something every single week.
Oh my God. Megan, like as we're sitting here, do you know how much I want to pitch to Michael Cole? Let me be the Andy Rooney of WWE. Like
We need it.
Give me 90 seconds on Raw to be like, and what's the deal with ladder matches? You don't have a ladder in every match. He's
like, have you guys ever thought about the air in a bag of chips? Yeah. Why is it there? He just cuts a 4-minute promo about the air in a bag of chips. It's great. Like I love, I see wrestling everywhere I go, right? Like wrestling is life. Life is wrestling.
Yes,
like, you see it in all sorts of elements, whether it be sports, whether it be 60 Minutes. It's all over the place. And like you said, it's those facial expressions. And whenever there's a camera and whenever there's a mic, it really is about entertaining. Right?
100%. 100%. I mean, I'll have like friends who don't watch or my wife or whatever. She'll be like, I can't believe that person did this. And I'm like, he's working.
Yeah.
Come on, we're working, babe. We're
We're
working.
working.
We're always working.
Sell. Come on, you gotta sell. You gotta sell. But no, I mean it's amazing. The television
The
product
Andy
is.
Rooney of WWE. We
We
need it.
We might. We
We
might
need
need
it.
it. Yes.
We need it, at least on the bump, right? If somebody could just come on the bump and go like, and they say that they're drafted to SmackDown, but why were they on Raw? And you do it just like Andy Rooney.
Andy Rooney is one of the greatest professional wrestlers of all time.
I
He
think
just
so.
doesn't know it.
I think so. Absolutely. And you don't even have to get in the ring. Just the promo.
Yeah, that's it.
Just the promo is selling people,
yeah.
right, into
Yeah.
the building. Do you have, are there any moments that you've had that specifically stick out, like, whoa, that was something wild, or whoa, that was something memorable, or?
I mean, right off the bat with Cena coming back at Money in the Bank,
Right.
it was like, wow, welcome to WWE.
Yeah.
And then the next PLE, Brock comes back.
Oh,
And
that's
I-
right, because the whole time you were there had been no Brock.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, the beast.
Yeah, and nobody had known about it. I was standing backstage by Gorilla, and all of a sudden, here comes this mammoth of a human, and he's walking out to the ring. I'm like, wow. And then,
Brock's great because you're sitting there like this whole time going like, yeah, this is all part of the show that we're putting on, and we're telling stories and everything, except Brock. Brock's real. That's
yes,
real. That's
yeah,
real life. That's real life.
That is real life, Brock. My first WrestleMania in Dallas, Pat McAfee being there.
Yeah.
And then obviously Stone Cold Steve Austin coming out was amazing. And nobody knew that second night that he was going to be there.
Right.
So just hearing the glass shattering and him and Pat in the ring was awesome. It was really cool for me to start. I started a week after Pat had started. And I think the world of Pat. And it was just, one of the things about Pat, he's so kind to everybody. He knows
Yes.
everybody's name. The people who mic you up, the people who do camera work, like everybody. Pat knows their name. And just really getting to watch him be who he is was just cool from somebody who wants to be in television for a long time, whether that be in sports entertainment, whether that be in sports, whether that be wherever it may be. I think he's a star, and watching what he does is really cool. And then obviously Cole, right? Like Cole
People
is
have no
the greatest
idea.
storyteller
Yeah.
that there is.
Yeah.
He just, I mean, he's more than the voice of WWE. He's been there for so many moments. He's been with this company for so long. And just for him seeing something in me and believing in me meant a lot, because I had no clue what I was getting into. And he was just so encouraging. And he was like, you belong here. You belong here, and you're here for a reason. And I told this to someone recently. Someone said, oh, you know so much about football. Like, why aren't you hosting a football show? I'm like, well, I'm here now, and I love this. And I was like, but I do have a little bit of that imposter syndrome. Almost every time before I do a Raw talk or a SmackDown Lowdown, I have to tell myself, like, Megan, this is your life. Like, you watch wrestling just as much as anybody here does.
Mhm.
You know what you're talking about. So
100%.
just go. Like,
Yeah.
don't second guess yourself. You know what you're talking about. But before every show, I have to remind myself, you just watched Raw. Talk about Raw.
Right.
Like, don't overthink this at all.
No.
Like, we don't need X's and O's. We don't need you to get too inside baseball as it relates to wrestling. Just talk about what we watched.
I actually find it very refreshing, because I have had conversations with people where I'm like, oh, they don't know the product at all, like at all. But I've spoken to you like off the air before we do a pre-show, before we do this, just about the show, not like, I'm going to say this, you're going to say this, like, oh, what do you think of this guy? What do you think of that guy? And it's like you're talking to somebody who actually watches and has a real grasp. And I mean, that's the baseline, right? You should be that person, but you are, and not everybody is. But I don't think that imposter syndrome ever goes away. Like, every pre-show I've ever done, as that the stinger starts, then now all that's in my head is, what would happen if I just left? Like right now, if I just walked off the set, walked right to the car, and drove away.
I always think, what happens if I go to talk and nothing comes out?
It's just,
oh my God. But, I ran in college. I'm still an avid runner now. And I always have the same feeling when I would stand on a starting line. I'd be like,
really?
what happens if the gun goes off and my legs don't go? Like, what if that happens? So I think it relates to a lot of areas in life, but I definitely have that feeling before shows.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's a good thing. I think it
Yeah.
shows humility. Like, while imposter syndrome is not great, also feeling like comfortable and entitled to everything is also not great.
Yeah.
So I
I
think
agree with
I,
that.
I think I think it's a good thing ultimately, especially when you can put that aside and be aware, like, no, I do belong here, and also I'm just gonna go do a great job real quick. And you
Yeah.
do a great job. So
Oh,
it's
thank you,
like,
Sam. I
you
appreciate
know,
it. Well, and it's also been fun to kind of like transition now. In April, it'll be 3 years since I've been with the company. So I've almost been watching wrestling for 3 years now. And one of my favorite things is down in NXT, right? Like
mhm.
watching LA Knight. I loved LA Knight from the beginning. I was like, oh my God, that guy's a star. He is a star. He's so fun. My
Do you know
husband,
trivia? Do you know who the first person on WWE television he ever said was an incel?
oh, was it you?
Yeah, yeah, it was me. By the way, I don't
Wow.
like that you could guess that easily, but yeah,
Well,
it was
but
me.
my husband does camera work for WWE, so he's involved with the product as well. And he was at NXT, and we'd always talk like, "Oh my God, LA Knight, he's so fun. This is great." And then he got up to the main roster, and he was Max Dupree
There it is.
for a little while. And I remember when it was like the one promo where he was like, "Sometimes you have to go through the day to get to the night." Yeah. And I remember when that promo happened, Andrew texted me immediately. We're like, it's happening. It is happening. So, and
But
now,
isn't that for people that are like watching or listening to this, isn't that amazing to know that like the same texts that we have with our friends, like you're having like as a part of the show, like, oh my God.
it's
Yeah.
happening.
Yeah.
It's happening. And it was just the subtle, yeah. And you're like, oh, we're back. Oh, we are on track. And I mean, nobody could have predicted that he was going to be as big as he is right now and that he was going to get this reaction that sports entertainment hasn't seen in years. And I'm sure Saudi will just be amazing.
Electric.
Right?
Yeah, we're taping this as we speak, like, what is it, 2 days before Crown Jewel. But yeah, I think the thing that's amazing with LA Knight is that I feel like everything that's been given to him on this road, basically since like leading up to SummerSlam and then the SummerSlam Battle Royal and beyond, I almost feel like everything's been a test. Like, okay, like if you can do this well, you can get here, but at any point, this thing could totally fall apart and we're going to move over here. And he goes out and delivers on that level every single time to the point where he's nose to nose with Roman Reigns. And like everybody watching is like, that guy belongs. That's exactly who should be there. Nobody's going, oh man, that's Roman Reigns. And I guess there's LA Knight. They're like, no, there's 2 stars.
Yes.
2 mega stars are now there. And the level of stardom that Roman Reigns has built is like unprecedented. So the idea that LA Knight can walk in and be on that level and that fans can get ready for that match going, this is the match. This is the one I want to see. That's who should be facing Roman Reigns. Really tells you how good LA Knight is.
Well, and the other thing, like with sports entertainment, like you watch these guys reinvent themselves over and over again, and you are kind of a part of their journey going along.
Yes.
Because you don't know if it's going to work or not. So for LA, he was one of the first ones that I got a front row seat to watch
In
the
real
rise.
time.
And I remember when I started, it was like Braun Breaker was just at the PC when I was down at the PC. Carmelo Hayes just at the PC. Trick Williams was, I mean, Trick Williams is still in my phone as Matrick Belton because that's what I knew him as was Matrick. And I remember we would meet at the PC. Hey, I'd say, hey, do you guys want to work on promos? Because I would love to work on interviews. And they didn't even know what their characters were at that time.
Right.
And so now to turn on my TV on Tuesdays and see all of these guys who had no idea who they were killing it is amazing to see. I know like they're not my children, but sometimes I feel like a proud mother. I'm like, look at them. Look at them go. Like, I just am so happy that they figured out a way to make it work because it's really hard to do.
Yeah. That whole NXT product is remarkable. Just the idea that the whole everybody that you just mentioned starting from scratch, but with an organization that was starting from scratch, right? It wasn't like they were starting from scratch, but they got to go on this platform that's already established and we know how to push people to the moon right away. The entire brand started from scratch, which is
Mhm.
like impossible. And the fact that today we're looking and all three of those people that you just named are big stars and NXT is having this like renaissance where it's becoming must-watch television again. It's getting back. It's so cool and rewarding to see it and to kind of realize like, yeah, you know why that's happening because they're all really good and worked really, really hard.
Mhm.
And it's great to see hard work pay off.
Yeah, Tony D'Angelo is another one. I remember
Yeah.
working on interviews with him, and he was like, "I don't know what my character is. Like, I'm an Italian guy from Chicago." And then a couple of months later on the TV screen, everybody in the audience is putting their hands together for the family. And it's
Yes.
like, there's that Italian guy from Chicago. I
Yes.
love it. And I mean, a lot of times you have to, you throw a bunch of stuff at the wall and
Mhm.
eventually some of it sticks. And I'm so glad these guys have found what sticks. And, in wrestling, you always have to reinvent yourself, though.
Yeah.
So to be along for the first rise and then to be along to see what comes next,
Yeah.
it's really fun to
I
see.
mean, how about the Creed brothers killing it on Monday Night Raw?
Their debut was so good.
So
right?
good. So good.
good.
It's so cool. You brought up Pat McAfee a minute ago, and I was thinking that like the thing about guys like Pat is it makes it real tough not to be a good person.
Mm-hmm.
Because if Pat can be a good person, what excuse do you have not to be a good person?
I know.
But Megan, without blowing too much smoke, you're in that boat too, right? Because I'm like, all I've ever had is positive interactions with this person. All she ever is pleasant. And all I ever talk to is people that enjoy her company. And then I see this thing on Instagram going like, giving up a kidney too. And I'm like, what? All right, enough. Enough. This is not fair to the rest of us who are like, yeah, but she's probably just putting on a show. She's probably not that. She's just pretending to be nice for, oh, she's giving up a kidney in her free time. Oh, she's a marathon runner that's what, okay.
I have gotten a few haters in the comments that are like, "Oh, you do this for attention." I'm like, "All right, well, if you really think
Even
that,
like
I
you
can't
gave up
help
a
you.
kidney
I
for
cannot help
attention.
you with that." But every now and then there's always going to be haters.
You have to really want attention
yeah,
to go in for surgery.
right. I know.
Doc, make sure you take some pictures. I'm really doing this for attention.
Can we live stream this whole
Yeah.
thing, please? I'll sign waivers.
I mean, tell me this story, Megan, because it is a remarkable, a truly, all jokes aside, remarkable thing that you did going like, yeah, I got some healthy organs if you want them.
Well, okay, so a year ago this time, I honestly didn't really even know what your kidneys did. I mean, I knew, right? And I knew we had two. But when I thought of organ donation, I thought of the little box you check on your license and you get the little heart on your license and it says organ donor. And you're like, yeah, I'm an organ donor. Until a coworker, I learned he was in kidney failure.
Wow.
So I just asked a simple question. I said, what goes into donating a kidney? And he told me, well, the surgery is laparoscopic. And I was like, what? It's a laparoscopic surgery? They don't even have to really cut you open to do this? No. 1 to 2 nights in the hospital, laparoscopic surgery. I was like, I'm okay. I could do that. That's not a big deal. So
This is already a wild story because, like, most people, when they hear someone's a kidney failure, like, they have sympathy, but they're not like, well, if it's not a big deal, I'll give you mine if you want. Like, you're already ahead of the game.
I had an aunt that died suddenly right before I got hired with WWE. And she got her prognosis and there was nothing that anybody could do. We all knew her days are numbered. She's going to pass away. And watching my cousins go through that, and there was nothing anybody could do. You could send meals, you could send flowers, you could send prayers, but we all knew how this was going to end. And you're helpless, right? And life sort of stopped for my cousins and my uncle and really our family. But the hard part about it is life doesn't stop. It just keeps going. Now, the one positive about being an end stage renal failure, somebody can help you, right? There is light at the end of the tunnel, where for my cousins there wasn't. I mean, the it's not even light at the end of the tunnel because it was like, well, when this is over, it means that she's gone.
Yeah, there's a finish line, but it's not great.
Exactly. So after going through that and seeing what my cousins had went through, I was just like, man, for a family to be going through this, because when somebody gets sick, terminally ill, which end-stage renal failure is a terminal illness until you get a life-saving kidney, it affects everybody. Like, it affects your whole family, right? People can't work. They have to go on dialysis. People who have kids, you got to figure that whole equation out as well. So it really affects everybody. And it's like, I could take that away, that stress, that pain, that suffering away from a family. And all I got to do is one laparoscopic surgery,
A couple of nights.
1 to 2 nights in the hospital, and I'm going to live a pretty normal life. So I was interested. As soon as I learned laparoscopic surgery, 1 to 2 nights in the hospital, and then my next 2 questions were, if I do this, can I have kids someday? And then the answer was yes. And then the next question was, if I do this, can I run marathons? Because that's my passion, that's my hobby, that's my thing that keeps me sane, I think. But that's my thing. So if that got taken away from me, it would have been really a difficult decision. And the answers to all those questions were yes. So I went home that weekend and I went on kidney.org. I had no idea. So I start reading about donating a kidney and what goes into it. And everything I could read, it was like, this is a very safe procedure. As far as surgeries go, this is not a very invasive surgery for the donor. The recipient has a much longer road. And I just kept thinking, we have 2 kidneys. We only need one. I believe we're all here to help each other out. I think that's why we're here on this earth, to learn from each other, to help each other, to support each other. Because life's hard, right? It's really hard. So I read about it, and there was nothing I could see that would really deter me from doing this. I was like, I have taken good care of myself. I know I'm in good health. And I also know the doctors won't allow me to do this unless I am totally a perfect candidate and that it's not going to affect my health long term. So I called up my coworker and I said, look, if you need somebody to test, I will gladly test for you. And at this point, I was like, I want to donate my kidney. I was fascinated by the process and I wanted to do it. So I drove to the hospital, got a simple blood test, 2 blood tests, blood typing and tissue typing. And when you're donating a kidney to somebody, the positive or negative with your blood doesn't matter. It's just the type. So I learned that my blood type and this coworker's blood type, we were not a match. However, this coworker did have another person who was a match, which is great. Gonna get the kidney. Everything is going to be good. And I was thrilled for him that he got that news that he was going to be good. But what I didn't expect was when I got the call and they said, hey, you're not a match for him. And they already found a match. But thank you so much for testing. I had this pit in my stomach. I was like, ah.
So because you were ready for it. You were like, I'm going to do this.
And I know donating an organ, much like your situation where you're interviewing the Usos, is not about Sam. So me donating this organ was not about Megan.
I was just thinking, I know you donated this kidney, but one time I did interview the Usos, so I totally get it.
But I was like, it's not about Megan. This is about the person that you're giving to and about the receiving. But at the same time, it is emotional for the donor as well. So it is about me. It is my kidney.
And you also want to help.
Yeah.
You figured out this way. I can help. I want to help. And when someone says your help isn't needed, it's almost like, well, I'm ready to help. What are we doing?
Well, can you find something for me to do?
Yeah.
What? I'm here. And I had read so much about it that now I was an online kidney expert, right? So a couple weeks that went by, my husband had a big exhale because before he's like, are you sure? I don't really know about this. I think this is a little crazy. And he always has to tell me, like, this is not your problem. Because I have a tendency to, like, make other people's problems my own a little bit. I'm like, I always want to be like, oh, let me help you with this. Oh, let me connect you to this person. Let me do this for you. And sometimes I have to step back and be like, just stay out of it.
Yeah.
Stay in your own lane. But with this kidney thing, I was all in. And a couple weeks had gone by, and I'm on a group thread with my old coworkers from the Patriots. And everybody was just, going back and forth, busting each other's balls. And somebody had said that they had kidney stones and that they were having a procedure to remove the kidney stones. And everybody was giving him a hard time. Not like, I know it sounds bad, but it was more in like a playful way. We were
You're all
wishing
friends.
him well.
Yes.
We were all friends. And I just said, hey, if you ever, and I was sort of being sarcastic. I said, hey, if you ever need a kidney, let me know. And I sent
I'm trying to give up this kidney.
I sent the Oprah gif. You get a kidney. You get a kidney. You get a kidney. And so my husband's in the other room. We used to work together at the Patriots. So he's on this chat and he's like, are you dying to get rid of this thing? Like, what is your problem? And I'm like, I don't know. It just kidney, whatever, keeps recurring in my life. So I don't. If she needs it, I already tested. I'm like ready to go tomorrow. Like,
Right.
let's go. Right. So the next thing, my phone rings and it's my old boss, and he says, my maiden name is O'Brien, so he calls me MOB. He says, MOB, I need that kidney. And I said, Dave, what do you need a kidney for? He said, I need that kidney. Are you being serious? I said, yeah, I'm being dead serious. Why? He said, Margaret, my wife, is in kidney failure and she needs a kidney. And I said, put her on the phone right now. And so I said, Margaret, I'm so sorry to hear that you're in kidney failure. I actually just tested to donate a kidney to a coworker. I would love to help you. What blood type are you? And she said, I'm O. And I said, I'm B, but I read about this program through the National Kidney Registry, where if you're not a match for your intended recipient, they have something called the voucher program where you can give on behalf of somebody and start a chain reaction that allows for other people who are a better match for you to get kidneys. And in return, the person you donated on behalf of gets your voucher and then they can get a kidney.
Wow. So like if you donate your kidney, somebody who needs it will get it, and then the person who you intended it for kind of gets bumped up to the top of the list, so that if a kidney that matches them comes up, that counts for yours.
Yes.
It'll go to them.
Yes. So the list, I put that in air quote because that's the list that you hear about when you're diagnosed with end-stage renal failure, is the deceased donor list. So that's what we talked about before with your license,
Yes.
right? The deceased donor list is 5 to 7 years long.
Wow.
Depending on what state you're in, depending on your blood type. So it's a really long time. And a lot of people are on that list with not a lot of hope.
Mm-hmm.
Now, through National Kidney Registry and through the voucher program, it sort of allows for people like maybe they don't have any family members that can donate, but they have somebody else who's willing and they're not a match. So it allows for chain reactions to start, and it actually allows for more people to get kidneys.
Totally, because maybe you wouldn't have donated to begin with if it wasn't. You'd wait until somebody else needed it, but now that person who can use yours can get yours and the person you intended.
And it can be a better match, too. So they're trying to match me with someone that my kidney is the perfect match for. And this person could have been waiting for a very long time. So I told Margaret about this program. And I said, look, it takes a little longer. If you guys find somebody who's O, I won't be offended. At this point, I had already prepared myself for this not happening because I went through that already. I said, I won't be offended, but I will start testing for you. And she was like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. But they were continuing to look because a lot of things can come up when you're testing to donate your kidney. I mean, you learn a lot about yourself. So I had to do a series of tests. I had to do a urine collection. I had to do a ton of different blood work. I went to Mass General Hospital, which was her hospital. They did imaging of my kidneys. They did ultrasounds. They did a chest x-ray. Really work you up to make sure that there is nothing that could possibly come up in your life where you might need your other kidney. So I got the news in April that I was thumbs up. I was a candidate to donate. And then we had the WWE show in London, Money in the Bank. So they didn't want me going abroad after surgery. So we scheduled the surgery for after London, and we were good to go. And yeah, so July 12th came, and I went in and donated my kidney. My kidney actually got on a plane from Boston, and it flew to Los Angeles.
Wow.
And it was transplanted into a man named Joseph. He is 44 years old. I didn't know his name until about 4 weeks after surgery. It was just going to a stranger, and I didn't even know where it was going. It was getting on a plane and see you later. I wrote him a letter, and then we were able to connect through that. But Joseph's mother donated on behalf of him. So then as soon as Joseph got my kidney, his mom's kidney went to somebody else.
Wow.
And then that person got a kidney, and they had somebody donate on behalf of them. So as soon as that person got a kidney, the chain kept moving.
Of course, because I mean, if you're a human being, it's like if somebody does that for you, you're like, well, I'm 100% paying this forward if I'm at all capable of doing that. And that's how more people end up getting these kidneys.
So 4 people on that day got a kidney.
Wow.
But the chain reaction goes a little bit further because that deceased donor list that we talked about, all of those people were on the deceased donor list. So now they're off the deceased donor list, and more people get moved up. And so as soon as I donated my kidney, it was out of my body, Margaret becomes what they call activated in the system. So she's ready to go. And they, through National Kidney Registry, if you ever go to NKR, it's unbelievable. Their office building is in New York, and they have all of these TVs with plane trackers because they're tracking all the organs.
Wow.
And the screen will turn like yellow if the organ is, on a plane and the plane's starting to get delayed, because they have to get those things out, right? I mean,
they don't. Yeah, I guess. I mean, people who I wouldn't have even thought of it, but they're not keeping them on ice.
Yeah.
It's not like we got a warehouse full of kidneys. Let's see what we got in stock.
No.
It's coming out of you. It's going into them.
So National Kidney Registry has a direct line with the pilot, with the airplane.
Wow.
Figure out why is it delayed, what's going on, this plane needs to get off, and then they track the flights of all the kidneys.
Because the person waiting for it is probably already opened up, waiting.
Waiting, ready to go.
For it to just pop up. That's incredible.
Yeah. So that was my July. I never ever thought I would do something like this, but honestly, it was like so incredibly rewarding to do this. One of the things that's been a bit of a challenge is Margaret, my intended recipient, has yet to receive her kidney yet. Now, they do say on average, it takes 3.8 months.
3.8.
So I made a little mistake. Yesterday I posted on Instagram. It was 4 months. It's been 15 weeks. And I used to get so annoyed with, like, I know this sounds bad, but like when I would ask friends that were expecting, I'd be like, how far along are you? And they'd be like, 23 weeks. And I'm like, what does that mean? Like, I don't have time to sit here and do math. Like, how far along are you?
Yeah.
But my surgery was on a Wednesday, and every Wednesday I'm like, oh, it's another one. So yesterday was 15 weeks, which I was like, oh, that's 4 months. And then I looked at the calendar, not quite 4 months. So we are right around that 3.8 month mark.
Which is average.
Yeah. So she should any day be getting the call. And it's just, July 12th was such a big day for both of us because she's going through dialysis 3 times a week. She has kids. Her husband's there. I mean, she's still working, and she works in the nonprofit space, which, she's helping other people, and she's the one who should be asking for the help. But she doesn't complain. She's so tough about all of it. She has the best attitude. But July 12th really gave her a lot of hope, right? Like I stayed at her house the night before. I recovered at her house after the surgery. And I'm so glad that we got to have those moments together, because the day of surgery and the day before surgery was really emotional. And it's just, I remember going to bed that night being like, okay, there are 4 people out there, because I knew 4 people were going to get a kidney. I was like, there are 4 people going to bed so excited that starting tomorrow, they don't have to do dialysis anymore. You can do this. And I just kept thinking about all of those people and all of their loved ones and their family members. And it was really totally fine. I mean, I got a little nervous because before they couldn't get my IV in, and I was like, oh no, maybe this was not meant to be. Yeah. But it was all good. You have to do a fast, so I was dehydrated, and it all ended up working out just fine. But I remember the day after my surgery, I only spent one night in the hospital. The day after my surgery, my surgeon came in. She just knocked on the door and she's like, I have some good news for you. I was like, what's that? And she was like, your kidney made urine. And I just started crying because there's so many uncertainties, right? And you're going through this and you really got to emotionally prepare yourself for what if the body doesn't accept the kidney,
Yeah.
right? Like, what if the kidney rejects? And that's a fear. And the risk of rejection has gone down quite a bit. I mean, these doctors are experts. They know exactly what they're doing and they've researched this, but there is always a chance. So when she told me the kidney made urine, I was just thinking about who got my kidney. And I thought maybe it's been 2 years since they were able to make urine on their own, but what a beautiful thing.
Incredible.
That within 24 hours of this surgery, they're feeling so much better.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, it really is incredible. And you have to also know that, like, you can directly say, okay, I'm going to bed and I know these 4 people will get kidneys because of this. But I gotta believe the more people you tell this story to, the more inspiring it's gonna be for people, right? I'm
Yeah.
sure there are people that will hear this and go like, oh, I didn't know about this program. I didn't know
Yeah.
this was even possible. Like, if one person hears that story from this interview and go, that's another one, maybe another 4, maybe another whatever. Like, it just
Exactly.
keeps it moving.
For me, it was a quick Google search, right?
Yeah.
Like I literally Googled kidney donation, ended up on kidney.org, read about it, and wanted to do it. I think so many people have no idea what goes into the process. So many
Yeah.
people don't know that it's laparoscopic. So many people don't know that you're going to live a very normal, very healthy life after you do this. I mean, like I said, yesterday was 15 weeks. I'm running a New York City Marathon this weekend, and I feel great. Like,
Of course you are.
I mean,
what are you doing this? Well, I'm just going to run a marathon.
but I just want more people, because I think if more people knew what was going into this,
Yeah.
they would do it, right?
Yes.
There would be less hesitation about it. There's just a lot of uncertainty, and when you tell someone I'm donating an organ, they look at you like you have 5 heads, right?
100%.
But it's not what they think it is. And I can't tell you the amount of people I told that it was laparoscopic, and they were like, no, it's not. And I was like, oh, I want to see my scar. Like, yeah, it is. It's I had it done. It's all laparoscopic. And you know, I've followed the hashtag now, hashtag kidney donor, hashtag donate life. I follow all of these things on social media because before my surgery, I was like, I'm not sure if I want to share it. I really thought this. And Margaret had said to me, you know, after I get my kidney, I want my life's mission to be to educate people about kidneys. So I think we should do some media. And I was like, I don't know about this, Margaret. And I think part of me was nervous because we still hadn't done it yet. And I'd kind of gone through this emotional process before, and then it didn't work out. And I didn't want to put it out there unless I knew it was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I also didn't want to put it out there for attention. But what I kept coming back to was, if one person reads your story and Google's kidney donation, just like you did, Megan, we could change a lot of people's lives. So I know I post about it quite a bit, but it's not about me. It's about educating the other people. And I actually have been able to connect with so many wonderful people who are either waiting to get a kidney or looking for a kidney or have received a kidney. I'm going to pull up his name right now. There's someone in our wrestling community right now. I connected him with National Kidney Registry the other day, and he launched his website. He's looking for a kidney. His name is Chris Riddle, and a huge wrestling fan, wrestling supporter. He's on dialysis, and we were able to connect via social media. I connected him with National Kidney Registry. They helped him set a website to kind of spread awareness about this, and it's just I just want more people to know about it.
Yeah.
Because it's not nearly as scary, and you're going to be fine, is what I want people to know.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, I mean, we were talking about this it was a few months back. It was not that long after, I remember, because it was one of the first NXT pre-shows that we did in Stamford, and you were like just recovering still.
Mm-hmm.
But you kind of told a very abbreviated version of this story. And I do what I do sometimes, which is kind of stop listening, because I knew immediately. I was like, you've got to talk about this on the podcast. Like, immediately, Like, because that's what I do. When I know, I'm like, this story is incredible.
Thank you.
Like,
Thank
I
you.
stop listening because I'm like, no, we got to have this story where like people can hear it, and because it is, and I do think that it is such a valuable thing that not only is the thing that you did directly making, I mean, this incredible impact on people and families directly, but also like I had no idea, right? Just
Mhm.
hearing you talk about it from my perspective, I was like, wow, like I didn't know that it was that easy, but I also didn't know that there was even I had no idea about any of it. It
Yeah.
had never occurred to me, right? And I
Yeah.
think that a lot of people are like that, and it's a really valuable story, you
Yeah,
know?
I see on social media all the time. Like I said, I follow those hashtags, but one of the reasons I follow them is because I want to educate others about what's going on. I see a lot of posts where people are like, I'm looking for a kidney, I'm blood type, whatever, and I need a match. And I'll comment on it. Hey, have you heard about National Kidney Registry's voucher program?
Mhm.
Because then they're like, oh my gosh, that's a game changer, right? Like,
Yes.
say you're somebody who needs a kidney and you don't have a large family and you don't have people to donate to you, but you have a brother who's not a match and is willing to do it. Okay, how's that going to work? Well, we can do it through this voucher program. I mean,
Yeah.
that changes so many lives. And like you said, with the families, that's what really did it for me. I mean, I didn't hear from my recipient until 4 weeks after the surgery. I wrote him almost immediately. I didn't know who it was at the time, but I just wrote a letter and kind of told him about myself. And when it was right around the time I was starting to kind of question myself because everybody I told that I did this either looked at me like I was crazy
Mhm.
or would say, oh my God, you're a hero. And I
Yeah.
don't think either one is really true. Like, I didn't do this to be a hero. I did this because I believe it's what we're here to do.
Mhm.
I believe we're here to help people. And really, it was like, no sweat off my back, right? Like, I was out of work. I went back for the 12th day. On day 12, I went back. So I didn't miss a SmackDown or anything. I just kind of
It's
scheduled
wild.
it where it was going to work out that way and I wasn't going to have to miss anything. And then I had to stop running for 4 weeks. But other than that, it was really just like a minor inconvenience more than I didn't do this to be heroic. I just did this to help others. And when I finally got the letter from Joseph, I was driving in my car and I was like, am I nuts? Like everybody thinks I'm like nobody understands like why I really did this. And I looked at my phone and I had this email. I'm like, oh my God, I needed this. I needed this. I really needed this. And we started going back and forth via email. And he actually sent me 2 pictures. He sent me one picture of him with his daughter. And then he sent me a picture of him with his entire family, brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, mom, dad. And that picture made me really tear up because I'm looking at this photo and much like, my aunt who had passed away and I wish to this day there was something we could have done to save her. And looking at that picture like, oh my gosh, everybody in this photo knows who I am and everybody in this photo is impacted by what I did.
Mhm.
And they're all going to get to have Joseph in their life for so much longer because of that. And that's what I needed at that moment. I needed that because there were some moments where I was just like, are you sure that was the right thing? Obviously, you can't undo it, but I was like, I don't know. Should I have done that? But it's just, I can't wait to meet him someday. I hope to get out to LA and we could have that time together. And
No, I mean, it's really the right thing. And I think that maybe you don't realize how foreign selflessness is to a lot of people, right? Like the idea of doing something purely to help someone else for whatever reason, it doesn't come naturally to a lot of human beings. And so when you see that in action, especially like, let's call it what it is, like we work in media, we work in show business to an extent. It's a very selfish industry.
mm-hmm.
And so the idea that somebody in that industry is truly doing something not for clout, not for like, oh, well, if I do something nice, I do it for Carmen and it'll come back for me and blah, and I'll post about it and I'll create a brand and it's like, no, it's for Joseph and his family.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't happen that often. So I know my reaction was that it blew me away just because it was like purely good. And you don't get to see something like that. And I from a distance am happy at the amount of people. Like, I did the bump with you not too long ago, I feel like, but I remember in the moment being very happy that Kofi Kingston was the guest on Zoom, and he like stopped the interview for a second to just take a moment to like give you your flowers as just, being an incredible person.
It meant a lot. I mean, a lot of WWE superstars reached out, and I was honestly kind of surprised. Not saying that they're not good people. I didn't expect that. And
Mhm.
Hearing from Kofi, he sent me a message actually the night before my surgery, and he was just like, "We're all rooting for you. You got this." Like, it just, wrestling is family too, and I
Mhm.
think a lot of people lose sight of that a little bit sitting at home because we talked about before, we're on the road
Yep.
52 weeks a year.
Yep.
These people are more than coworkers.
Yep.
So when I learned that my coworker needed a kidney, I was like, "This is my family member. We are in shops together. We work on TV together." And it was similar with my family over at the Patriots. So when my old boss called and said my wife needs a kidney, and this was a boss that I traveled on the road to games with for 4 years. Like, I was a part of his extended family. He was a part of my extended family. They were invited to our wedding. And it was just like, I think a lot of times in media, while you do have a lot of selfish personalities, you also work a lot of crazy hours. So you spend nights, weekends, holidays with all these people, and they become more than
It's a family.
coworkers. So hearing from Kofi, Becky reached out, a lot of WWE superstars. So Santos reached out, and Santos always has this wonderful message about like inspiring other people, right?
Mhm.
Like, his goal is to inspire others. And he was telling me that the one day, and he was like, "You inspired a lot of people with your kidney."
Mhm.
And just hearing that, it was like, wow, like, coming from you, that really has a lot of magnitude. And now, my life hasn't really changed that much. I have to be a little bit more careful with my hydration, just because I have the one kidney. And the Patriots team doctor works at Mass General Hospital, so he came to see me when I was recovering, and he was like, "The only thing I would say, Megan, is I will never clear you to play football." I was like, "Dang it!"
There go your
I
NFL
was like,
dreams.
"All right, I can't play in the NFL," but really, like, everything has been normal. And now I think about like this weekend with the New York City Marathon. I'm obviously running for myself. Running is my passion. Running is my hobby. Running means a lot of different things to me. And I want to do the marathon, but sort of in the back of my head, I'm thinking, I want to show people that you can
Mm.
donate an organ and you can live a normal life. And that's not the reason I'm running the marathon, but part of advocacy for me now is showing everybody that my life is normal.
Yeah. Well, Megan, as it turns out, I suppose the world is a better place because people like you are in it. I appreciate you popping by and telling us the whole story of
Oh,
this,
thank
of your
you.
journey to WWE, of the
Yeah.
whole thing. Of course, you can catch Megan on the bump every single Wednesday. You're the queen of Peacock right now, honestly. You can catch her on the bump every Wednesday, Raw Talk every Monday, SmackDown Lowdown every Saturday first thing, and then of course kickoff shows, whether it be the Crown Jewel kickoff show. I think all the NXT kickoff shows. Maybe the next
You know
one.
what we should do? We should do the NXT kickoff show.
Yeah.
And then we should get in our cars and go to Bridgeport to go watch the show.
I'm down. I'm so
I think we should do
100%
it.
down.
Yeah, we have to,
Of
right?
course
It's
we
right
have
down
to.
the street.
Of course. And they'll let us in.
Yeah, they better, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Do you know what this lady did for the world?
hey, they might have an interview. Like, "Hey, Sam, we need
That's
you here.
true, too.
Tommy Colin will be there. Security will be directing you in."
That's the
So-
other thing. That is the other thing that was great. Though that SmackDown thing happened one time, but ever since then, I feel like I can show up to any event and people will just assume there must have been a last minute thing.
Yeah, they'll
And
know.
Sam is
They'll
here.
know right
Yeah, yeah,
away.
yeah, yeah.
Well, I also thank you for having me on, Sam. Thanks for giving me this platform. And I want to say for everybody out there listening, like, if anybody has any questions about kidney donation, about being a living organ donor, please message me.
Yes.
I look through it. I will get back to you. You're never bothering me when we're talking about organ donation. If you're considering becoming a donor and you're a little nervous, feel free to reach out. I know I reached out to a lot of different people when I was going through the process, and that really helped me get through it. more than happy to talk about this at any time.
Awesome. You are the best. Thank you so much, Megan. This was great.
Thanks, Sam.